Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. What an exciting week we have in store as we continue on with RPG Overload. We've got the launch of a brand new, very hot and exciting RPG today in Dragon's Dogma 2, but we've also got a huge push to finish the lingering playthroughs of Baldur's Gate 3 and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. But in addition to all of that, today we have an overabundance of gaming news to talk about on the show, so I hope that you're ready. Buckle back, sit back, buckle in, get ready, because this is the Level 1 Podcast. Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back. It is Friday, the 22nd of March, 2024. I'm DSP, of course. I'm getting the leaderboard centered. And welcome to the show. I hope you're all in good spirits. I hope that you're feeling well and ready for an action-packed day of new release goodness here on the channel. If not, hopefully I can put you into a good mood and we'll have a good time together today. Man, a lot of news happened on my day off as usual. It's weird because, I don't always have exactly the same day off. I always try to aim for the same day, Thursday, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And it seems like whatever day I'm not streaming is the day when there's absolutely the most game news possible. Never fails. So we've got a ton. We've got stories about Larian Studios. We've got stories about Starfield and its botched storyline. We've got stories about Kotaku falling apart. All kinds of stuff is happening right now, and I'm excited to cover all of that for you today. But, of course, the big talk of the town is the release of Dragon's Dogma 2, which is funny because, remember, I was on the fence between getting Dragon's Dogma 2 or Rise of the Ronin, and which I was going to play today. And you guys convinced me. Originally, I was going to get Rise of the Ronin because I felt that would be more variety for the channel, but you guys convinced me to get Dragon's Dogma 2. And the funniest part about that is I am not hearing a single peep in gaming news or even social media today about Rise of the Ronin. Everyone's talking about Dragon's Dogma 2. That's it. Like, there's no real discourse about Rise of the Ronin, which means essentially what's happened is all the other games today are being overshadowed by Dragon's Dogma 2. Remember, there's more as well. There's actually Super Princess Peach that also is coming out today. And the thing is, yes, it is true that will have its own audience on the Switch, and those who like Nintendo games will always play it. But again, when it comes to the big gaming news and the buzz today, it's definitely Dragon's Dogma 2. Sadly, it's not all for positive reasons, as we're going to talk about in a second. Now, also today, I got to talk about my day off yesterday. I've got a few things to discuss there. And I feel like we should just get right into the discussion, because we have so much to cover, okay? So, back on Wednesday, my last streaming day, lots of great progress in both Baldur's Gate 3, where we completed the House of Lost quest line for Shadowheart, and then we actually started the quest line for Will, where we're going to try, apparently, to get a dragon to help us in the endgame. So the progress is moving very smoothly in Baldur's Gate 3, and some people are under the impression I may finish it this week. If I end up streaming it 4 days like I'm planning, I might complete it. So I guess we'll see what happens, but I'm very happy for the progress that I made, and I hope that we can wrap it up sooner rather than later, because obviously people want me to focus on these new releases coming out. Also, in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, same deal, where we got through a ginormous, epic segment of the story. There was a huge, awesome boss fight. I won't spoil it, but it's kind of on par with some of the cool Easter egg boss fights and fan service that was in the original Like a Dragon. And it was really cool, and we're, again, moving forward positively. It looks like when I play it again, we'll get into Chapter 13 of 14. So we're there. We're hitting endgame. I'm wondering if this week, with my schedule, can I potentially finish both Baldur's Gate 3 and Like a Dragon? And if I do, obviously that would be great, because then we can solely focus on new releases, which I'm pumped for, I've heard actual good things about Alone in the Dark now, because now the game's been out for a couple of days. And people who played it are like, the reviewers are too harsh. They're expecting this game to be something it's not. this game is trying to be an homage to the classic Alone in the Dark games. And if you're looking for that kind of horror and suspense, you're going to like it. Just don't expect groundbreaking gameplay or anything. So I'm honestly strongly considering playing Alone in the Dark after we beat these RPGs. We'll have to talk about it and determine if that's what you guys would want, but it is definitely a horror creepy game that I think you guys might like. So anyway, schedule for this week is very simple. Today we're playing Dragon's Dogma 2 all day long. Yesterday, my wife and I made characters. We'll talk about that in a second, about the process we did to do that. And those will be used in the playthrough. And I'm playing at both streams, okay? Tomorrow, we're going back to Baldur's Gate 3 and Like a Dragon. Sunday is React Day, where we're going to do the clip show on DSP Reacts, which is called DSP versus the Internet. And then on the late stream, we're going to finish up my retro react of Heavy Rain on the DSP Throwback channel. Monday, we're going back to RPG Overload. So it's more Baldur's Gate 3 and Like a Dragon. And we're literally doing that 3 days straight till we finish them. I'm hoping that at the very, very least, we can finish one of those RPGs this week, because I want to bring Dragon's Dogma 2 into the fold as a full-time game, and I can't do that until we beat those games, right? Once we beat both of those games, now we can actually have Dragon's Dogma balanced with something else and even bring back Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And my wife and I want to start our co-op playthrough of Beyond Two Souls, but we need to finish Baldur's Gate and Like a Dragon to get to that point where the schedule will free up. So we're going to get there, okay? We're getting there. This week is the final week for that, and I'm happy to start the week with a new release, quite frankly, because if it weren't and it was the same every day, it would get boring, but the fact that we're breaking it up is great, okay? Cool. All right, so good stuff, all right? I'm very excited for today. Before we get to today, let's do a little segment that I like to call Phil's Day Off, where I will talk about what I did on my day off yesterday. Not exactly the most epic day. It was basically a day where I knew we were going to be doing, well, I was going to be doing a lot of errands, but then we were also going to be setting up for Dragon's Dogma today, which was fun. It looks like, you know, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to go out and have a major day out where we do a bunch of stuff together. So a more of a laid back day. You know, I ran my usual errands like pet store and grocery store. We ended up doing a lot of cleaning. One of the things that we stopped using years ago on our back door, we have a back sliding door that's a double doors that are glass that slide with a screen. That's how we get into our backyard. It's a beautiful view of all this forest area and a dog walking park that we have behind our house, and we love it because we put out like a little suet block on our fence and a little cage that hangs there. We get all kinds of creatures that come by, birds and squirrels and all kinds of stuff, and wild nature out there. It's a really beautiful view, the best view I've ever had, and it's very quiet because we don't have a street near us. But we have had busted blinds on this door for many, many, many years. They are just sliding plastic blinds. You could tell they were installed in the 1990s when the house was built. We hate them. Since the day I moved in, I knew that they were garbage because they started falling off and cracking and breaking. And the funny part about this is, think about how stupidly designed this was. There's hanging plastic blinds, okay, on top of a vent on the floor that cannot be closed. So whenever we're turning on the heat or there's air circulation with our system, it blows the blinds, and the blinds start flapping all over the place, making tons of noise. So why the hell would you ever want that? It doesn't make sense. It's like two idiots designed parts of the house and never thought that, oh, maybe having a vent under where these fucking blinds are going to be doesn't make sense, so we shouldn't put blinds there, right? So anyway, they're trash. And they, like I said, they've been breaking and falling apart. We don't even use them. We had them all drawn to the side and not used for ages. And finally, we were like, we want to fully clean the house. So we were like cleaning everything. And my wife was cleaning fully the doors. And I said, we're going to take these damn blinds down. We don't use them. They're just here in the way. So I did. And it wasn't that big of a deal. It took maybe about a half an hour. But it was just hilarious. You're looking at 1990s technology and you're like, I bet when these were new, they were nice. But you can tell they're made of like cheaper plastic. And you know that within a few years, these things are going to get brittle. They're going to stain. They're going to break. Like, they're not meant for long-term use. So why on earth would anyone even make them? Like, either make them of wood, which will be way more durable and will be way more, useful, or just make cloth blinds, which a lot of people do. They have like curtains or shades that are made of cloth. Duh. Why would you even make these shitty plastic blinds? I have no idea. They're just really horribly designed. So we got rid of them, and it took a little bit. That it was older design, so it's weird because the track is blocking the screw to take it down. Yeah, it didn't make any sense. So what I had to do is pry the track off of these like clips that they were on. It was just really weirdly designed, but I got rid of it. And we're thinking about getting something cheap, like how you get those bars that you can screw and then they fit, you know, a doorway and or a window, excuse me, and then you can get like just cheap like curtains. We might do something like that. Like we'd like to get better ones, but it's going to be expensive. And quite frankly, if I'm going to be getting expensive curtains, I need to get them for this office because these blinds over here are completely like destroyed. They won't even, if I pull them up, they won't even come down anymore. And they don't even work that well. I'm thinking, you know, eventually we're going to get blackout curtains for this room. So we're thinking about getting something very cheap, like a cheap curtain rod and just, you know, cheaper curtains and just doing something like that. But it was awesome because when we got rid of them, Jasper immediately took to it. He started running to the back door. He's like, oh, these aren't in the way anymore. And he's like fully investigating and he loves looking into the backyard. So he was having a good time with it. Anyway, outside of that, my wife has been trying out a new game that came out on Game Pass the other day called Lightyear Frontier. For those who have never heard of it, it is a game that is a combination of factors. It kind of feels in some ways like Minecraft, but then it kind of feels like Subnautica, but then it kind of feels like a bunch of other games. Essentially, what you are a stranded space person, and you have a mech, and you use this mech to do all this stuff like crafting, gathering, farming, building, exploring. Okay? There are no enemies in this game. This game is meant to only be an exploration game, more of a chill game. And it has really nice, relaxing music and pretty good graphics. Also, a lot of unique space creatures are on the planet that you can befriend and basically feed, and they give you resources and things. It's a neat game, but it's an early access, and it shows. There's a few things in the game that don't work right. Like, for example, there's no clear-cut explanation of the trees of stuff to design. So, for example, you'll be playing it, and it'll be like, oh, you need to make a lens. Okay, how do I do that? You got to try to figure it out. It's like, well, to make a lens, you have to develop this device, like a furnace. And you also have to find this rare mineral, but you can't get that rare mineral at the starter area. You have to unlock a new area of the map by exploring and doing all of this. Once you get that mineral, you have to refine it. Then you put it in the furnace. Then you could do this, 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 and then you get the lens. But the game doesn't say any of that. So how would I know? It's early access, so they don't have, like, a guide or a step-by-step instructional thing in the game to tell you how to do anything. So you just got to kind of either figure it out by literally trial and error, which could take you dozens of hours to figure this out, or you can look it up online for people who had early access and I guess were given some of the information by the game devs. And, I mean, if you're just sitting there with a guide playing a relaxing game, it's not that relaxing anymore, right? So the game is good. The graphics are good. It's very relaxing, but it does have some problems with things that are kind of missing from this kind of game. And there are some game bugs, too. Like, every once in a while, it says it's raining weed seeds. And what it is seeds are coming out of the ground with these helicopters. You ever seen those seeds that come off of a certain kind of tree? And it looks like almost like helicopter blades and they zip down like this. So a bunch of those come out of the sky. And what you're supposed to do is suck up all the seeds. Well, it's Cat's playing it. And it says, oh, the seeds are coming down. She's like, there's no seeds. What are you talking about? And then it says, oh, event ended. And she's like, I don't know what happened. And then later on, she was looking up at the sky, and way up in the sky, you could see like 40, 50 seeds were stuck. They got stuck up there, and whatever was supposed to remove to make them drop never did. So there's like a giant clump of seeds just floating in the sky endlessly, and she can't reach them. So, I mean, that's what happens with early access games. It looks, by the way, the game doesn't seem early access when you start playing it. It definitely looks like a polished experience. The graphics are quite good, and the music is very relaxing, and it feels like a completed game until you get like maybe... yeah, I'd say about 10 hours in, and then you start to see it gets rough around the edges. Like, the early parts are done, and the later parts are not so much. I would say the distinct difference between this game and other games of this style, there's no enemies at all in Lightyear Frontier. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm getting attacked, and I need to defend myself or build defenses. And also, there's no eating mechanics, so you don't have to worry about, oh, I need to have food to eat. You're more growing stuff so you can craft future stuff. So it's definitely a lot more relaxing of a game. And if you have Game Pass, I recommend it if you're looking for this style of game where you just want to kind of chill and unwind while you play a game. It seems pretty good. But again, you're going to hit a point where you're going to probably have to look a lot of stuff up for it. So perhaps it later on down the line this year, if you guys want me to try out a new chill streaming game, again, remember when I played Subnautica and it worked for a while? I think this game works in that regard. And by the way, they're obviously going to keep updating it. This is early access. So perhaps you know, in a few months, the game would have a lot more features to make it feel like a finished game, and it would be even better. Okay. So there you go. So anyway, she played a lot of that yesterday, and we also, you know, came into the office here and made 2 characters for my Dragon's Dogma 2 playthrough. I made my main character, and she made a pawn for me. Okay, the main pawn. Now, I'm not going to spoil at all. Obviously, I want you to be here for the playthrough after this podcast, or if you're watching on demand, check out the video later today to see the characters. All I'm going to say is this. Wow, that character creator is one of the most complex I've ever seen in my life, okay? And, again, without spoiling, I think you guys are going to... Some people's jaws are going to drop when they see what I came up with, okay? There you go. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so Dragon's Dogma 2 coming later today, and I'm excited for that. Outside of that, so we did something really weird that we never would usually do for food yesterday. We're looking at everything. We're like, man, you know, we've had Asian recently. We've had Mexican food recently. We've done Indian. We're just kind of burned out on all the things that usually we would get. All right, what's something we absolutely never, ever, ever get? Fried chicken. Never. We never eat it. And we're like, why not just go crazy one day and just do it just for variety? I'm like, well, if we're going to get fried chicken, where would you get it from? KFC's terrible. We're not going to get that shit. So we started looking around. There's a few local places. But we actually found out that you can get this like family dinner pack from Popeyes. And it's not what you think, because you think a family dinner pack, well, we're probably going to get a bunch of, you know, chicken, right? Well, we wanted to do something different. So we actually got this pack. They just got wings, chicken wings. They just started it like recently. It got to their menu. So basically what you do is you can get 2 different flavors of chicken wings and a chicken sandwich each. And then you can order, like, you get a side with it too. And it's like a combo pack. We're like, you know what? What the hell? Let's just try it. You know, we haven't had their wings ever because they're new. The chicken sandwich I had many years ago, if you remember, after the Popeyes sandwich craze finally ended, I got it for DSP Tries It, and I thought it was all right. I wasn't in love with it, but I understood why so many people probably liked it. So we ordered this, and we ordered 2 flavors of wings. It was honey barbecue and sweet and spicy wings. And they were all right, okay? They weren't the best. They weren't the worst. I have this weird thing about wings today, because wings, just so you know, first of all, chicken wings are literally supposed to be chicken wings. I don't know how many of you know that, but chicken wings are actually supposed to be the wing. Today, they'll give you any piece of the chicken, as long as it's small and bite-sized, they call it a chicken wing, and it's not. You know, they sell the little chicken drumsticks, that's a wing. It's not. It's a drumstick. I get it. But it's not a wing. Like, they're calling it wrong. If you used to go and get chicken wings, you would literally get a plate of wings. You don't get that anymore. So all it is various pieces of the chicken. And here's the other weird thing. Everyone breads them now, which I don't understand. Classic chicken wings, they don't bread them at all. It's fried, but usually what they do is they season and dry rub it, or they put it in a sauce, and it has that flavor cooked into the skin of the chicken. So it's supposed to be a crispy chicken skin, and then you can dip it in something else to add more flavor if you like, or to have a contrasting flavor. Today, all it is breaded chicken. And like, that's not a chicken wing. That's not even the recipe of how to make a chicken wing. They just breaded a small piece of chicken and claim like it's a chicken wing. So what they do is they probably make a ton of these, and then they just toss it in a box and they pour sauce on it and they shake the box. So a little disappointing, because you actually want like a chicken wing that's cooked in the sauce, and it's totally not, okay? So the first one was honey barbecue, and it was pretty good. It had a little bit of a sweetness to the barbecue flavor, and it also had a little bit of a spice. And then the sweet and spicy basically kind of tasted like a sweet and sour sauce from, say, like almost like an Asian style restaurant, like a Chinese restaurant, just again shaking on the wings. Now, they weren't bad, but again, they weren't great. I wish that they were a little bit juicier and there was more meat. The problem with modern chicken wings is they literally have almost no meat on them. So you're sitting there getting completely dirty trying to eat it, you know, and there's like, my God, I got like 1 bite of meat in that whole freaking piece. Now I got to get to the next piece, you know. So basically, it was decent. Now, the chicken sandwich I've had it before. I knew what it was going to be, and it was all right. It wasn't amazing. It was all right. We ended up getting the Cajun fries as our side, and the Cajun fries are crispy and tasty. So it was decent, and we're like, wow, It was interesting because we literally never do this. We never would order like a fried chicken food meal because it's not good for you, you know. But we just went totally in a different direction. We were looking at some of the other meals, and it's like the 12-piece family pack with all this shit. Like, oh my god, 12 pieces of greasy ass fried chicken. That's way too much. You know, you're not gonna do anything like that. They do have chicken nuggets, and I've heard people say the chicken nuggets at Popeyes are really, really good. And you know, you get like a bunch of dipping sauces. We're considering maybe in the future trying those, but the chicken wings are okay. They're not amazing. They're not bad. They're just kind of middle of the road for us. Yeah, Haley says try Wingstop or Buffalo Wild Wings. I've been to Buffalo Wild Wings. It's terrible, at least out here. I think it's way overpriced and not good. But people do tell us about Wingstop. You know, you guys have mentioned it. Wingstop, we never been to it. There is a Wingstop here. We just never went to it because we're not into wings that much. But maybe now we would try it. I have to think about it. Anyway, so we did that for dinner. And, I mean, that was essentially our day off. There's really nothing else to say. I think at night we were watching someone do a playthrough of Horizon Forbidden West. We just, every once in a while, we just turn on a random playthrough now just to relax at night. And we watch it for like an hour before we go to sleep. So, that was Phil's day off. Very exciting, as you know. I mean, you guys die to hear that story every week, right? Today is the release of Dragon's Dogma 2. And there's good news and bad news. The good news being that everyone playing it is basically saying the game is superb. Like, it's a huge improvement to the original game from over a decade ago. It has some modernizations, but it still has that feeling of openment and wonder where you explore, and you either can run into awesome stuff or get your ass handed to you because the game doesn't tell you which direction to go, and you can wander into a tough group of enemies that just smack you around. That's exactly how the original game was, by the way. So I'm curious how it's going to go. And you know, I want to see, hopefully, how it translates into a playthrough that you guys will like. But most of the feedback is positive. Where the negative feedback is coming from is the graphical performance and the PC edition. First of all, I'm just going to say this to everyone out there. Once again, this is a case of people need to stop believing that games are always designed for PC. They're not. Capcom is not a PC-centric game developer. They never have been. Most of the time, they're developing for console first, and then they're porting to PC. They're not specifically designing games for PC. So usually when a Capcom game comes out, the PC version is inferior. This has been par for the course for a long time for Capcom, yet here we are, like the 12th time this has happened in a row, and people are like, oh, I can't believe the game doesn't run that well on PC, and it has de novo piracy, anti-protection bullshit and everything. And it's like, this always happens. Like, literally always on PC, the Capcom game underperforms. Will they eventually fix it? Probably. They probably will end up patching it and improving it. But I don't get why people still are thinking that the PC version will be the best. Now, from what I'm to understand, graphically, if the game runs on your PC, it runs really well, and that's the best version. When it comes to the console versions, the game runs around 30 frames per second. Now, get this. Now, this is such a rarity. On the PlayStation 5, it tries to run at a steady 30 frames, but actually chugs and goes down to the 20s during combat. On the Xbox Series X, it runs better. It actually runs 40 frames per second during combat, which is like significantly more frames than on the PS5. And why? I don't understand, because this never happens. It's almost always in favor of PS5, this console gen. For some weird reason, it flipped for this particular game. So if you buy the Xbox version, or the Series X version, I should say, you're probably going to get a better experience. Now, you might say, now, why isn't it running at 60 frames? I agree with you. I think every freaking game that we buy today should be running at 60 frames. But I talked about this the other day. Sadly, I think the real reason is because all of these game developers are aiming for 4K resolution, which is stupid. I would love some research done, all right, of people who are serious gamers, who buy games and play them to completion. How many people are using a 4K TV or monitor for every game? I would love to hear this feedback. I'm willing to bet, and I'm not shitting you, probably less than a third are actually playing at 4K. Or an even better question, how many people even know what resolution they play on? Because most people these days have everything auto-adjusted, so they don't fucking know what they're doing. They just pump the game in and boot it. They probably don't even know what resolution they're watching on. So why are we forcing an entire game industry to pump out a graphical fidelity that most people don't even know they're looking at and don't care, right? And because of that, our whole game industry is being effed up. We can't even get games running at 60 frames, and yet we're worried about 8K coming out? Who the fuck cares about 8K? So, that being said, the game does... Also, there's another thing to be said as well. It runs on the RE engine, which it's funny because they call it RE engine, and I should say it's Resident Evil engine, right? They're like, oh no, it's the RE engine. I'm like, but you know it stands for Resident Evil, right? Like, they made it for Resident Evil. But I guess technically it's the RE engine. Whatever. Anyway, so this RE engine, people are guessing, now that Dragon's Dogma 2 is out, this engine is made for smaller scale games, right? More narrow experiences. It's not meant for an open world rendering, right? And people are guessing that's probably why the game has frame rate issues as well. You're using a graphical engine that was directly designed by Capcom for Capcom games only. It's their proprietary engine. It's a great engine. I mean, take a look at Resident Evil 7 and 8. Take a look at Street Fighter 6. These games look absolutely superb, right? But take a look at those experiences, right? It's basically a situation where they definitely are, how can I say? It's meant for a on-rails kind of experience. Not to say that Resident Evil 7 or 8 or Resident Evil 4 Remake were on rails, but you understand what I'm saying? Here's your boundaries. You're not going to leave these boundaries during a set period of time. A game like Dragon's Dogma, where it's an open world and you can explore and it's got to render all this shit on the fly, it's not really meant for that. And because of that, what ends up happening is the world chugs along a bit. And that's why the frame rate dips. So I would think if you're in a dungeon, it probably runs better. And then when you go back to the overworld, it's not as good. What sucks is this game has a huge overworld, just like Dragon's Dogma 1, huge overworld. I get the feeling it's going to suffer a little bit because of that. I'll admit, again, I think every game today should be running at 60 frames. The fact that I'm going to be playing every other video game I'm playing right now at 60 frames, when I go to play Dragon's Dogma 2, it's going to be going down to 30. It's going to be jarring. It really will. It's going to be like, oh, you know, my eyes, I got to get used to this again. So I definitely feel like perhaps Capcom should have done a little better in the graphical department from what I'm hearing. All right. Now, obviously, I'll make my judgments when I start playing the game today. But outside of that, like, no one's complaining about the gameplay. Everyone's saying, yes, the world is great. The gameplay elements are good. The story's pretty good. It's just the graphics that everyone's complaining about. And then on PC, Capcom got that weird de novo copyright protection bullshit. It's not copyright protection, it's anti-piracy, right? And I guess a lot of people hate it. I guess it screws with people's PCs. It can make the game crash. It could fuck with other things. And if so many people hate it, why in the holy hell Capcom would put it into the game, I have no idea. I just don't get it. That doesn't make sense. If the entire industry and the community agrees this is a shitty thing, why does Capcom continue to put it into their PC versions of their games? I don't know. I don't think I can even justify it. I think it's just a stupid move by some manager, right? Some big wig at the company. You know, we must have, no one can pirate our games. We must have it in there. And stupid shit. The last thing that people are kind of freaking out about are microtransactions. Because apparently you can buy your way into success in this game. I guess they're called something crystals or something like that. And I guess it's the currency of the game. So you could just sit there dumping money. And then you can go in there and buy a ton of shit in the game. That's going to make the game way easier. So it is a pay to win situation. If that's your cup of tea. But the thing is, and I'll say this, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's not a competitive game. So I don't know why people care that much. If it were like pay to win and it were Street Fighter 6 online, I'd be like, that's complete bullshit. It should be skill-based, not pay to win. If it were Call of Duty and you could buy new weapons no one else could get, so you win online, that's bullshit. This is a single-player RPG experience. It doesn't make sense that people would freak out that there's microtransactions. They're just in there for Capcom to make some more profit for those who wish to spend, but they're not necessary. And Capcom has made it clear, too, because people were in a big uproar overnight about these microtransactions. And Capcom said, just to make it clear, everything you can buy also is available in the game to earn for free, but you have to earn it by playing, whether you find it as loot or, you earn it as a quest reward. It's all available. There's nothing that's purchase exclusive. Okay. So once they say that, I should be like, well, here's the one time where I would disagree with it. If they did something like, Lord of the Rings Shadow of War. Remember that? Where what they did is they made it that at one point of the game, everything you've done in the game undoes, and you either have to redo it, grinding to do it, and it takes upwards of 15 hours, or you can just pay to skip it by buying your troops back. And I think that was bullshit. That was like, you literally have screwed me. You undid all the work I did in the last 20, 30 hours just to say, waste another 15 to see the ending or pay to win. And by the way, the ending was awful. The ending was super bad of that game. So literally that was pay $15 just to see a shitty cutscene ending that's not very enjoyable at all. So the way I see it, as long as that's not the case, which I'm being told it's not, it's just you buy items in the game that, you know, makes the RPG easier. I don't see the problem with the transactional nature of the DLC in this game. This is not a situation like Street Fighter Cross Tekken over a decade ago, where there were characters in the game on the fucking disc ready to go. And they said, hey, if you want those characters, you have to pay us money because that's the meta of the game. But, you know, unless you don't pay, then you can't use the characters and you'll never play it competitively. Like, that was the worst case ever for Capcom, in my opinion, when it comes to DLC. In this case, you're just getting the items earlier that you can earn in the game anyway. So I don't really see the problem. But anyway, I guess we'll see what happens in regards to this, okay? As I play, I'm sure I'll have commentary on it as well. We'll probably check out the store and laugh at how ridiculous it is, right? Anyway, I'm definitely excited today to play it for you guys all day long. And like I said, once we finish with Baldur's Gate 3 and Like a Dragon, which hopefully both we can finish this week. If not, we're so close, we're finishing it the first week of April by far. There's no way it's going to be longer than that. Then we can fully focus on this as a playthrough, which I'm stoked. I really liked the first one. The first one I felt had some flaws, but I really liked it. And the fact that we're going to do this interactively this time, instead of me just sitting around playing it by myself, I think it's going to make it a better experience. I hope it doesn't suffer from people come for 1 or 2 streams and they never come back, which is what happened with Final Fantasy VII. I played it for 2 streams and people liked it, and then after that it was like no one cared. And the game was dead every time I played it. I want to bring back Final Fantasy VII, but I don't even know how many people will come back for it. We'll have to see. But anyway, I'm excited. I hope you guys will join me all day today, and we'll go from there. Okay? Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for my favorite segment, your favorite segment, and everyone's favorite segment. And today, it's the most loaded segment of the show. It's time for DSP News. And we've got a ton of news to talk about today. All right? First of all, the biggest news of all, Larian Studios, the maker of Baldur's Gate 3, made a major announcement. They have come out and said, we are not making DLC for Baldur's Gate 3. We're not even making Baldur's Gate 4. In fact, we're never making a D&D game ever again. We've decided that we just want to do our own thing. What the? It's like a punch to the face. Boom. What? You literally just made the best game of the year. A game that other game devs are complaining about because they're jealous of you and what you made. They're upset that people may have expectations that moving forward, all RPGs would have to live up to what you just made. And now you're deciding you just don't want to make the game, no DLC, no sequel, nothing. Holy shit. Now, some people are surmising what this means is that they may go back to, say, Divinity, which was the game they made before this, Divinity Original Sin 2. I'm going to be honest, if that's the case, I hope that it keeps the production values that they had in Baldur's Gate 3, because I played Divinity, and I got about 60 hours in, and I couldn't proceed. I was bored to tears, and so was everybody else. At least with Baldur's Gate 3, it had enough production value to make it feel like an awesome narrative experience with big cutscenes and everything, when Divinity didn't have any of that, right? So, hopefully, whatever they do next ends up being good. But the thing is, people were completely godsmacked by this. They were like, what? We were so hoping that because it did so well that you were going to make more, because we loved seeing D&D come out this way. And now, I mean, D&D, man, they're fucked. First, they had a movie, right? What was it? Like Honor Among Thieves? The movie was absolutely outstanding, and apparently it tanked at the box office, and no one saw it. That movie is superb. If you didn't see the Honor Among Thieves movie, I strongly recommend it. It's got an excellent cast, a well-written plot, and it takes fantasy elements and makes them fun for a modern audience. I can't believe so many people didn't see the movie. It's that good. And now here they go. Game of the Year is a D&D game. Oh, by the way, the game developer's dropping out and not making it anymore. So now it's like D&D is left holding their own bag. They have their IP, but who do you give it to next? Because you think anyone's going to live up to the expectations that now Larian has created for if they make a Baldur's Gate 4? They're kind of fucked. So that kind of sucks for anyone who likes D&D and for anyone who spent an insane amount of effort trying to learn the lore of Baldur's Gate 3. Well, you probably just wasted your time because there ain't no Baldur's Gate 4 from Larian, which means the next one will probably suck, and you probably wasted your time learning all that shit. It's sad, man. Because hey, listen, I'm one of them. I'm almost 130 hours into my playthrough trying to finish it. I learned so much lore about D&D that I'll probably never use again ever in my whole lifetime. So, wow, what a great investment of time that was, huh? Hold on one second. Okay, everybody, continuing on with the news. Our next story is pretty interesting. It's about Destiny 2. And for those who don't know, because you don't follow Destiny 2, well, I don't blame you because a lot of people don't anymore. A lot of people have fallen off of this game. It still does have a pretty big community that follows it, though, all right? And a few days ago, they were doing this presentation over the internet on stage. They were on a stage presenting new content and stuff like that. And while they were doing this, I guess they were actually running Destiny 2, the client on PC on stage. And so some people found out that you could troll them by sending them like Steam invites or something like that. Like I guess they hadn't turned off the pop-ups for this. And they started sending them Steam invites with racist stuff, like the N-word and stuff like that. Okay? So literally they're trying to do a professional presentation about their upcoming content in Destiny 2, and they've got N-word messages popping up behind them, and they don't even realize that it's happening. Okay? So obviously this made headlines. People were like, Bungie doesn't know what the hell they're doing. I can't believe that they would have this on their stream or whatever. Thousands of people tuning in, and they've got racist stuff all over the stream. So in an unprecedented move, Bungie has permanently banned the players who sent them those harmful notifications. So they, as stupid and immature it is, how did those people not realize that their names were going to be on those messages, right? Obviously their name was going to be attached to it. So they went and they banned a whole ton of people based off of the troll messages they sent during the live stream. And I just find it funny because in modern day, this trolling shit, obviously people just do it now to get away with it and do whatever they can. We got people running on stage at award shows that don't even belong there, right? I'm happy that they are taking action because at the very least, it sets an example and a precedent. If this happens and they just let it go, then basically people think, oh, then it's okay to just keep doing it, right? Oh, we'll just keep doing it over and over. That's fine then. They don't want that message. They want people to know, no, this is serious. You shouldn't be fucking with this kind of stuff. This is a stream to thousands of people who are very interested in the game. And the fact that you're deciding to act like this is not, it's not right. It's not allowed. It's really messed up. So I'm happy that they took action. I'm very happy that they've done something here to, at least show, hey, don't do this. You're going to get banned. But, it's kind of silly. They're supposed to be a top AAA game dev. And they weren't smart enough to know that people could message them and do that on their professional stream to thousands of people all over the world about the future content. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know about Bungie. I've been saying for years that they fell off. Halo was their best stuff. Destiny has not been good, and it just keeps getting worse. And I don't know. From what I understand, a lot of the people from back then already left the company. You know what I mean? Like, that the people who were left at Bungie is a shell of what they used to be. I'm not surprised to hear that. Following along that same line, our next story regards Bethesda, okay? And this story is in regards to Starfield. Wait till you hear this one. I'm going to read a lot of this word for word, so just for the record, this is from a Games Radar story that was published 2 days ago, and this one absolutely blew me away. Okay, are you ready for this one? Get ready for this one. Starfield lead says that the RPG's ending twist was a panic button idea to tie things together because the team was overbooked making everything else. Hold on a second. So you're telling me that the brand new IP from Bethesda that was supposed to be the new flagship title that everyone was going to care about and love, right? This is going to be the new Elder Scrolls. This is going to be the new Fallout, okay? They didn't write the fucking ending. They literally were making the game and just flying by the seat of their pants and didn't know how it was going to end. I mean, new Star Wars trilogy much? How stupid can you be to have your flagship title that's supposed to bring your company back to prominence after very well-received games like Fallout 76 or Fallout 4, and the fact that you haven't had an Elder Scrolls in over a decade, right? How do you not have an ending? Don't even make the game until you have a complete story, right? Write the story, finish the story, then make the game. Don't fucking write the story as you're making the game and then fuck up the ending. Now, spoiler alert, because obviously an article like this has to cover the ending. So if you have not beaten Starfield or watched someone beat Starfield and you wish to be like surprised at it, I don't recommend that you listen to the rest of what I'm going to tell you, but just listen to this, okay? Speaking at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco recently, as part of a larger talk reflecting on the challenges and lessons from Bethesda's latest lengthy dev cycle, Starfield lead quest designer Will Shen, who's since left Bethesda, said the ending was conceived out of necessity and urgency after the entire game reached a playable state and the lead developers noticed that it was lacking something. We were finally at a state in the project where we could play through the whole game, and it became very clear that we were missing the large final location that was going to tie the story together and have a satisfying action-filled payoff, Shen said. I was both implementing the main quest and leading the quest design team, so I had absolutely no time. The entire quest design team was already overbooked. If you're wondering exactly how an operation as complex and sophisticated as Bethesda Game Studios could essentially forget to add a proper ending until the last minute, well, according to Shen and former Fallout 76 lead level designer Daryl Bringer, who's also no longer at Bethesda, the sheer size of the 500-strong development team is partly to blame. It's more difficult than ever to know who does what or who you're supposed to be reporting to, Bringer said, with Shen adding that a large, spread-out team can sometimes lead to a silo effect in which every department is scrambling for resources and saying no to collaboration requests. According to Shen, this had the inadvertent consequence of favoring the department over the game itself. Every request now has to go through all of these producers because we need to check all the contingent work, Shen says. Asking for something as simple as a chair just wasn't even so simple. Do you need animations for that chair? Do you need sound effects for it? How much does it cost? And will it add to the schedule? Can it not fit because one of those teams just doesn't even have time to make it? Ultimately, Shen went to Starfield lead level designer Steve Cornett as a panic button, and Cornett came up with the idea that players would hop dimensions and revisit locations instead of Bethesda designing whole new locations for the finale. It's an efficient use of the game's world and a memorably offbeat spin on Bethesda's usual formula, even if it does arguably leave those few story threads hanging, but I guess that's dimension hopping for you. So essentially, what is this saying? It's very simple, all right? Bethesda has gotten too popular and grew too big and literally became a bloated monster that can no longer make games, which explains why their last 3 games sucked. Right? Literally, that's 100% exactly what they're saying here, okay? It's sad but true. Sometimes you grow too big for your own good. And many companies, this happens. Usually, it's like a food company. Like, I think of like food franchise like Starbucks or Subway, where they get so big, they overexpand, their business model becomes unmanageable, the quality goes down, and now the whole business tanks. And this has actually happened both with Starbucks and with Subway. With Bethesda, they made so many good games. You know, they made 3 or 4 great Elder Scrolls games. Fallout 3 was a huge success. They even let another company make a spinoff in New Vegas. That was a huge success. And they let it get to their heads, and they just absolutely overexpanded. And because of that, you have 500 people working on a video game, and at every given moment, if you need something done, you've got to go through so many hoops. You've got to go through so much paperwork, so much bullshit just to get something basic done. Nothing gets done anymore, right? I mean, I tell you, yeah, they probably went into it, right? They probably totally went into it saying things like, oh, you know, this will be our biggest game ever. It's biggest scope, biggest this, biggest that. Don't worry, we're good enough that we'll figure it out on the fly. We'll let this game evolve as we make it, right? That's not how you do a story. You just don't. When you have a story, you need to have a beginnel. You need a beginnel. That's a good one. A beginning, a middle, and an end. And you need to then maybe work out some details while you're working on it. But you need to know the story. It's called an outline. I can't imagine anyone trying to do anything narrative without actually having an outline of their narrative. It's just crazy to me. And the fact that they're making how many millions of dollars of this game, right? The budget was huge for Starfield. And they didn't have the story done. It just baffles me. They didn't know how they were going to end it. So, it's just like, oh my God. Once you have your story set, then you can work on everything else and you can expand or you can retract. You know, you can do what you need to do to make it work in the constraints and the budget and the resources and the personnel and whatever you have, the talent pool. But you need the story or else you end up with the new Star Wars trilogy, which is exactly what happened with that. The first installment was absolutely amazing, right? The second installment floundered and it felt like it was the end of the storyline. So why is there even a third movie? And then the third movie ends up being a bunch of bullshit because you don't need a trilogy anymore because you already ended your story in the second movie. It doesn't make any fucking sense. So, I mean, it's just awful. And how they didn't learn from stuff like that, you know? Like, as you're making this game, you see that happen. You see all the critical panning of the end of the trilogy, and you're like, well, we can't do that. We have to do something better than that. And then they just fucking do it. It's like, it's unfucking believable. Like, holy shit, dude. Yikes. It's not hard to believe if you have 500 people working on a game and literally, oh, well, we need a chair made. Well, we got to contact this department and wait 4 days for a response. Then they got to contact the animations team, the audio team, this and that. And we all got to work on this. So it takes 4 months to get one chair for your game. Guess what? That's not how you work together on anything. I worked for a helicopter company. All right. Now, to do anything at the helicopter company, obviously, I had to work with my management directly. I had to work with the shipping department in the back. I had to work and call outside facilities who repaired helicopter parts and work with them. But even then, like, I could usually get stuff done within a day or two, especially if it was like a rush job for someone who needed something for a helicopter. Maybe it would take a couple days, but I'd get it done. 4 months for a chair, you know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't work. And obviously, it's just a problem with these AAA game devs. They've gotten too big. They've gotten too convoluted. They don't even have like a set work path of how to get anything done. So everyone's just confused and then the game sucks. Well, Bethesda, it's time to fix that. Seriously, like if this is the case and if they're now working on the next Elder Scrolls and they got 500 people working on the next Elder Scrolls, they got to fucking stop. Really, they just have to stop with the bullshit. Enough with the convoluted nonsense. And you know what I really got to ask is, what happened to Todd Howard? Right? Because if you actually look at Todd Howard and you hear he's done some interviews and things over the years talking about his history, and he's like, yeah, so for the original Elder Scrolls game we made, we had this many people, and then we were able to expand for the next one and the next one. So he's the one manning the helm. Why is he running the ship into the shoals? Right? What is this guy doing? It just drives me nuts. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't get it. AAA game development is not what it used to be. You should know, oh man, Bethesda, whatever they pump out is going to be great. I can't wait for their next game. I don't even care what it is. Now it's like, oh, Bethesda. It's going to take them forever to have a new game. And when it comes out, it's probably going to suck. It's going to be way underperforming. It's going to, it's not going to live up to expectations. The ending, for the record, the ending of Starfield was atrociously bad. It was just one of the worst contrived endings I've ever heard. And it's a cop-out because basically it makes everything you've done in the game up to that point meaningless. It's, in essence, if you don't play Starfield, you've had exactly the same experience as if you've played Starfield. And that's a bad thing. They're morons. That you can tell that ending wasn't tested with anyone because it's such a bad ending, it makes you feel pissed off that you spent any time playing the game. So it just kills me that, like, they have this system. And they had the world in their hands. at one point, and now they're just giving it away. Here, give all the credit. Larian surpasses them. CD Projekt Red did surpass them and then had a big floundering with Cyberpunk, but they're probably going to get it back. If they come out with a good game now, where people are going to look to these other companies for their epic RPG experiences, and Bethesda's just going to be left in the dust. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, continuing on, there's one other big story to cover, all right? And this one is in regards to a little journalistic company called Kotaku. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kotaku is a website that covers game news. Or do they? Because they did at one point, and then in the last couple of years, Kotaku has flipped to become an incredibly ridiculous leftist-leaning journalistic site that really politicizes things in gaming and also literally says some of the dumbest takes ever in gaming just for clickbait. Like, they'll have articles that are just so dumb that you're like, this is a joke. This is like The Onion writing this article, right? This is a parody of an article. But then you look, no, it's actually real. It's really on their site. They actually published it as a story, Just some of the most ridiculous stuff ever. And a lot of people will say, like, they'll try to make an issue out of something, and then literally everyone else on the planet will read the article and be like, that's not an issue. Why did they even publish this? It's a joke. So what's ended up happening is they went from being kind of a respected journalistic website to, for over the last 2 years or so, just the running joke of the internet. Like, everyone says, oh, Kotaku again, another fucking stupid, overly left-leaning article complaining about something, politicizing something. And you just know when you read their shit, it's exactly what it is. It's like a turd on a web page. Like, there's no reason to ever go there, okay? So what ended up happening is they tanked. This last 2 years, all of their attention has gone away, and everyone's just constantly making fun of them. So all their traffic on their site has tanked. They're not making as much money as they used to on ad revenue and things like that, which they need to survive. So here's what happened, okay? The management, meaning the people who own Kotaku, came down on them this week and said, what you're doing isn't working. Everyone hates you. You've got to now become a gaming website again. So starting this week, you have to pump out 50 game guides. Yes, they actually made an edict. You have to make 50 game guides in 1 week and have those on your site to draw traffic to the site that's related to actual games. Because what you're doing isn't working. It's not gaming related. It's trash. And we need people to actually come to the site now. Immediately, the head editor, what's her name? Kotaku editor-in-chief Jen Glennon resigned immediately, saying, oh, I don't like this management team's new strategy. Okay? Now, there's basically two different schools of thought on this. Some people are basically saying that this is awful, and here's why. Here's one take. This is from a Nathan Grayson. He says, Geo Media, that's the name of the company that owns Kotaku, is effectively forcing Kotaku to pivot away from news, lie, they weren't covering news, and demanding that its staff of 7 writers will now churn out an impossible number of guides per week. That's not what writers signed up for, and not why people visit Kotaku in the first place. This is straight up stupid and cruel. Okay? And here's what one of the employees actually said on Twitter. You know what? Fuck it. Here's a small cup of tea. Management here doesn't even care about the quality of the guides we make. They want us to aggregate them from other sites like a literal content mill, and went on to basically said, we're just going to use AI to do it. We're not even going to do it ourselves. We're not going to work. We're going to go to AI and we're going to tell AI, make an aggregate review, and we're just going to put it on the site. So literally, an employee at Kotaku posted on Twitter saying, I'm just going to plagiarize. And they said this publicly. I want you to think about this. This is supposed to be a major journalistic website that people go to for game news and trust them for true game news, outright admitting, I'm just going to plagiarize my work from here on out. They publicly said it. Anyway, I get the feeling this is it. I really believe what's happened is, here's the deal. At one point, Kotaku was a legit website about games. It was. I remember years ago, there were some good articles over there, but every once in a while, you get the oddball article that was definitely weird and political and leftist leaning. And you'd kind of like, all right, it's 1 every 20. So, all right, we'll let it pass or whatever. But then all of a sudden, they changed for the worse and became just a 100% schlock site. And as they became more and more schlocky, people just made them the running joke of games journalism. Oh, well, it's Kotaku's take. Here we go again, right? I don't know how they thought they were going to survive doing this. I almost feel like they thought they were like the rebels of gaming journalism, but they never bothered to ask if anyone wanted that content. And the answer is no one does. Like, literally, even leftist-leaning people don't want to read Kotaku articles. You know what I mean? Like, no one's looking for this baity content. That's really what it is. It's always baiting a reaction, baiting some kind of a response so that they can get some more attention and hopefully bring some more clicks, some more ad revenue to their site. And I don't know how long they thought they were going to last doing that. And I just find it hilarious that, like, the editor, like, immediately quits when told you got to do gaming content now. It's like, it's journalistic integrity. No. It's a gaming website. It always was. That's the inception of the site, was that it was going to be a gaming website. So if you took a job at a gaming website and you refused to actually write articles about the games out there, but instead all you did was make political schlock and no one likes it, how did you think this was going to proceed? Like, did you not understand that there's like cause and effect in life? Like, you don't make content people want. People move away from your site. It's not making money anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you think you would continue to your employment? You have to make money to get paid. And it's like they don't understand how business works. Maybe it's true. Maybe the people who write for Kotaku are these idiotic morons who went to these fucking stupid universities, where they just get by, bare minimum, probably got C's and D's in their fucking classes, but still passed, and their rich mommies and daddies paid their way through the college, and now they think just because they have a degree, they're entitled to a job, so they think they're just going to jump into some fucking cushy job where they could just fuck around and do whatever they want and not actually do any work, and somehow magically for the rest of their life, money's just going to keep falling into their laps. That's not how life works. I hate to say it, that seems like modern America seems to think that. That's not how life works, okay? A lot of times in life, you got to bust your ass. You actually have to work hard. You actually have to do things you don't like to earn a living. I know, because I did it for most of my life until I became a YouTuber, and now I got lucky enough to do what I love for a job. But the rest of everyone else has to bust their fucking asses. I guess these people just grew up, pampered, probably spoiled. And, oh, I'm the lead editor. I'm angry now because we have to make game content again. Well, then fuck yourself. Good job. Good luck getting another job. Because no one in any journal in integrity is something in journalism. And if you don't want to have any integrity and you're putting out junk after junk after junk, who's going to hire you again? Right? I certainly hope that, maybe you're going to go work at a florist or, go work at a restaurant, serving tables or something, because no one's going to want you in the journalistic world again after this job the way that you've behaved. And these people, can you imagine making that tweet on Twitter? I'm so upset that they want us to make these guides. I'm literally going to use AI, and just admitting publicly you're going to plagiarize your work from now on. That's the people who work there. You know what I mean? Like, wow. But anyway, Kotaku's falling apart at the seams, and to say that most of the internet isn't happy about it would be a gross misstatement. People are basically going crazy about how they're happy about this. Now, here's the thing. I'm not happy about people losing their jobs. I wish that what could have happened was there would have been more of a level-headed discussion about this. It sounds like there was just a giant edict and it was change now. You're being forced to tough shit. And if you don't like it, quit. And that's exactly what the lead editor did, right? But my question is, and you always got to ask these questions. How did it get that far, right? How did it get to that point where the site was allowed to go that far off the rails? It was supposed to be games journalism, and instead it became political. How did you let the site do that? Who was manning the ship? Who was running it? And who took this long to tell them that this was the wrong thing to do? Because it wasn't like, oh, there's 1 or 2 articles. It was like every piece of junk they put out was like this for about 2 years. So who made that decision? Who let them do that? That's someone's problem, right? And then to just say, well, the people who work here, right? The 7 full-time writers. I think they have some part-time too, but there's 7 full-time writers. Now you just have to change everything you do to something you don't want to do. You know, that's shitty. I've been there. I was at a job where I was hired to do one thing, and within a year they decided they didn't want that to exist anymore, so they tried to get me to do something else instead, and I didn't want to do it, and I fought against it, and then eventually they got rid of me. You know, that's fucked up. But at the same time, when you're making some of the most toxic content on the internet and you think you just get away with it, and again, you're not really working, you're just fucking around. I mean, how long did you think that was going to last? I don't get it. I just, they literally said, but they're a top gaming news site. No, they're not. They weren't even making gaming news. They weren't making gaming news content. They were always politicizing their shit for clickbait. It was stupid as shit. Okay. Anyway, that's the news for today. I mean, that was huge, right? That was like over a half an hour of news today. There's so much going on. And considering the fact that a lot of this, you know, is happening and in development, we definitely might have more news over the weekend regarding games. Like, the thing is, I haven't heard anything about Rise of the Ronin. I'm wondering how people's response and reception is to it. I'll look for that information. Same thing with Dragon's Dogma 2. You know, now we're going to get our day 1 impressions from everyone playing it. We'll probably have some good stuff coming up over the weekend to talk about, okay? But in the meantime, thanks for watching DSP News. I hope you enjoyed the segment. That was a super long one. I feel like we should get to shout-outs, because if we don't start shout-outs now, we'll never finish the show. So let's start with No Tango Dinero, who did today's first super chat and says, Friday party with the boys. Well, thank you, No Tango Dinero, for being here. I enjoy having a nice audience for new release days, and thanks for coming by, and thanks for the support. BB Phil did a super chat and says, is it allowed to campaign for specific hats in your chat? We're having a new RPG today. I can only see the Viking hat winning yet again. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in a certain hat, you can always say to everyone, hey, everyone, you know, if we get to a hat goal, let's try to convince Phil to put this one in the running, or let's all vote for this one. You can do that, just as long as it's not obnoxious. You know, don't constantly spam the chat with an automated message over and over. You know what I'm saying? It's all right to naturally, in conversation, try to campaign for something like that. However, to clarify, the way it works is we have goals for tips. $50 I put on my Gunner glasses. At $100 I put on a hat of your choice, and at $150 it's a vest. It is cool enough today to do everything, so I can do vests and everything. And excuse me. And basically, I don't know if we're gonna hit $100, you know. So campaigning may not make sense unless at least we're in the realm of hitting that. You know what I mean? If we're getting close. So I guess we'll see what happens. I received a very generous tip to start today. I received a $25 tip from Rocky. And Rocky says the following. Hold on, let's get a nice animation for Rocky. Get them on the leaderboard, and then we'll see what they have to say. Okay. Thank you very much, Rocky. He says, happy Friday, my friends. Let's get it today with a positive and fun stream for Dragon's Dogma 2. It's currently downloading on my console, so it should be a fun first look. Don't forget to tip your favorite streamers. All right, thank you, Rocky. Appreciate that. And I received a dollar tip from Snow Carl Remix. He says, not to be a contrarian, isn't Dragon's Dogma 2 an RPG? Won't this make RPG Mania worse? Seems strange and not a lot of sense. Final Fantasy VII will be on the shelf. Boy, I guess you're not listening. I will reiterate again the schedule. We're only playing Dragon's Dogma 2 for today. Then it literally goes on hold. Okay? Because I need to come back to it later because I need to finish the games I'm playing. The rest of this week, I am focusing on Baldur's Gate 3 and Like a Dragon. Once those are done, Dragon's Dogma 2 will come back. Likely, we're going to start a new game that's completely different, whether that be Alone in the Dark or Rise of the Ronin. I'm actually leaning towards Alone in the Dark because I'm hearing better things about it now that it's actually out. We're likely going to have Final Fantasy VII come in as like a late night chill stream, and I'm going to start a co-op playthrough with my wife of Beyond Good and Evil. And so that's what we're going to be doing for the next several weeks. And then on my birthday marathon on April 6th, we're going to sit down and look at the game release schedule, and we're going to figure out what other games I want to play moving forward in the next couple of months. So this has already been explained. I don't know why you're not listening. We are not just going to be playing Dragon's Dogma 2 constantly along with the other RPGs, that wouldn't work. I agree with you. I wanted to play it here on release day so we get our good first taste of it. We'll be 5 or 6 hours into it by the end of today. And so we'll know exactly what it is. But after that, did I say Beyond Good and Evil? I meant to say Beyond Two Souls. I keep saying that too. I keep saying Beyond Good and Evil. I guess for some reason I always think of Beyond Good and Evil first. Probably because I played it a long time ago. Anyway. Thank you for the $1 tip, but I've already answered your question. So, okay. Too much snow in the ears? Did they have a lot of snow or something? Hold on one second. I need to refresh this screen. Oh my God. What am I looking at? I'm looking at a lot of spam is what I'm looking at. Holy shit. I got a lot of spam emails yesterday. Ugh. There we go. Okay, I'm trying to clean this out. Okay. All right. Hopefully, that'll clean out in a second. I'll be able to find stuff. Anyway, let's continue. The Blimp with the super chat, he says, great take on Starfield, 100% spot on. Thank you to the Blimp. I appreciate that. For the super chat. First of all, this person's name is Dig Bix. Gee, I wonder what they're trying to say. And they say you should do a segment of DSP junk mail. You go through spam or dumb emails and we can laugh at them. No, that's an awful idea. I know for a fact that when you give entertainment value or you emphasize or give attention to something that's stupid, it just creates more of it. All right? I don't need more spam. I really don't. Okay? I don't need it. So the answer is no, we're not going to be doing that. Okay? All right. Okay. Well, I think as of now, I've covered everything. I think. So, unless, again, one of my emails isn't loading, which could be. But I think as of now, I've covered everything. So, we have a little bit of extra time. All right. If you guys want to chat, please tag me in the stream chat, DSPGaming. And we will chat a little bit before we begin with Dragon's Dogma 2 today. Okay? Yeah, Lawsome, I saw this before. Lawsome9 says, if you focus on Dragon's Dogma 2 this weekend, you can beat it by early in next week because it's a 25-hour game when it comes to just the story if you skip side content. And it'd be better for you to do that and then go back to the other games and then return to it after. All right? What I'm noticing now is a pattern that I've seen being a YouTuber. And it's the same pattern that I see in life. Okay? And it's this is the pattern. In life, everything is like a pendulum. You know what a pendulum is, right? It's going back and forth, swinging. Kind of like a grandfather clock, how it has one of these that goes back and forth like this. So in life, sometimes things go all the way over here. And sometimes things go all the way over here. And they're constantly in flux back and forth, okay? When I started on YouTube, people told me they wanted to see the stories of games as quickly as possible. I was known as the guy who would buy a game on release, play through its story within a day or two, have the entire story up on YouTube, and be on to the next game. That's what I was known for. That's what I was popular for. Then, around 2013, 2014-ish, people told me that my method of content was terrible. This is awful because you don't ever show what a real game is. You're only showing a very small, streamlined part of a game, and your rush through it mentality skips so much meaningful side content that your playthroughs aren't valid and your reviews are unqualified. So after getting basically lambasted by the internet around that time a decade ago, I said, well, we could change. And eventually what I did is I became more of a metered content creator, balance of side content versus story. Now when I take on an RPG, as long as it's an RPG that I like and I'm finding meaning in the side content, I make an honest effort to do as much as I can. Take a look at Baldur's Gate 3. I've done almost every piece of side content in that game that I found, right? There's a few that I skipped or didn't find too meaningful, but for the most part, I've done almost every major mission structure in the game, right? In Like a Dragon, I was spending upwards of 3, 4, 5, 6 streams in one chapter, because those were the chapters. It's chapters 6 and 8, where all the side content opens up, and I would spend time just running around doing side content for entire streams, right? So, that's just how different I am today. Now, the funny part about this is, I changed supposedly for the better. But now people say, oh, Phil, the way you play these games, it's too drawn out. You take too long to beat a game. So now because you're taking so long compared to other content creators and streamers, you know, people lose interest. They'll only tune in for a week or two, and then they're tired of you playing the same games. Every other content creator's already moved on and played another game. So like on which, so how do they do that? Right? How exactly are they doing that? That's the question. Like, how are they getting through an RPG within 2 weeks? Because they're rushing. Because literally they're doing what's being suggested to me here. So they boot the game up and they just follow the story. Maybe they'll do a side quest here or there, but they literally barrel through and turbo through a game to try to finish it within that small window of popularity that the game has. Because as soon as the next big game comes out, they jump on that next bandwagon for clickbait views. Like, literally, that's all it is they're jumping from game to game to game to game to game. They're not taking their time with games like I do. So because of that, they get through them faster. Essentially what's happened is they've become me from back in the day. When I did that formula back in the day, at first it worked, and then I was told, you're doing it wrong. So I changed, and now that I'm a different kind of person and gamer, people are saying, oh, go back to old Phil. But that's not how it works. When you change and you feel like you've improved for the better, you're not going to revert back to your old ways. You've already told me to evolve and change, so I did. I'm not going to revert back to who I was 10, 15 years ago. That's not how life works, right? I compare this to, basically, back in the day, I used to make 10-minute clips. Why? Because YouTube didn't allow clips longer than 10 minutes, right? So for the longest time, I limited my clips to 10 minutes. Now, eventually people were like, well, now YouTube allows half-an-hour clips. You should go longer. So I started doing 15-minute to 20-minute clips. And I did that for the longest time, right? Then people complained further. Well, we don't get it. Everyone's doing hour-long videos or longer, and you're still doing 15-minute clips. Why are you such a dinosaur? Why don't you get with the times? So I said, all right, when it makes logical sense to do so, I'll do this. So at one point, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago, my page here got screwed up because of a huge stupidity thing with Google Plus integration and shit like that. Not Google Plus. It was their competition to try to compete with Facebook. Was it Google Plus? It might have been Google Plus. But anyway, they did this fucked up thing. It glitched the page, and basically the page was gone for like a few weeks. So I used that opportunity. I said, when the page reboots and comes back, when this is all fixed, which it did get fixed, I'm going to come out with longer videos. Because this is what people have asked for ages. So I went from, no exaggeration, I went from 20-minute, 25-minute videos to 1-hour videos. The feedback was, oh, finally, and my views went like this. And my revenue went like this. Okay? It all tanked. So now, come to find out, people have actually been complaining recently, my videos are too long. My 1-hour-long videos of gameplay are just too long. That's too much to put into one video. Bill, why don't you get with the times? Why don't you have more digestible clips that are shorter? What? You mean what I used to fucking do? And you all yelled at me and said that was the wrong thing to do. So here's what's happening. The trends are like a pendulum. They go back and forth, you see? And sometimes this is popular, sometimes this is popular, sometimes you're in the middle. There really is no perfect formula for content creation anymore. It's all over the place. Now I've done it so long, I've been into it for 15 plus years, I've seen it go all the way this way, and now it's going all the way back this way. The most popular content creators are literally copying what I used to do. They're rushing through games, they're finishing them in record time to get to the next big trend, and they're pumping out shorter videos for more views and more ad revenue. What I used to do, and everyone gave me shit for it. So the question is, what do you want me to do? Right? I mean, what exactly would you like me to do? You know, I don't know. I really don't know. I just C0 says, I'd rather watch a playlist of 30-minute segments. I wasn't a fan at that point in time when you changed. Dark Gaming, what you're saying is both true and false. He says, some people upload entire 6-hour video on demand. Yes, the lazy ones do. The lazy ones who literally just do their archive streams, but a lot of the top YouTubers or top streamers have editors, and they cut up that stream into segments that are like 20, 30 minutes long. So now you can watch it in shorter parts too. They don't just leave a 6-hour on-demand video out there, although there are some that do, and that content is atrocious. I've seen it. Imagine if in one day, I only put out one video that was 6 hours long, right? And literally that had the pre-stream music, me coming on stream and doing the podcast, and then 3 to 4 hours of gameplay with what breaks in between. It's all one video, and that's all I put out. And it's up to you to figure it out, right? You just watch it and figure that shit out, right? That's terrible. That's terrible content. That's awful. That's not in any way helping a viewer figure out what if the viewer is there because they care about the game. They don't want to watch your podcast today. Well, you're fucked. You still got to watch the same video. You got to manually skirt through it to find the gameplay portion. Correct? You know, that's why I do it this way. I split it up on purpose so that way you can easily find what you want. You want to watch the podcast? That's its own video. You want to watch the gameplay? Well, it's 3 own videos, and each is titled appropriately so you know what happens in each part. Each has an individual thumbnail, and they're in a playlist. Easy to find. Like, my stuff, quite frankly, all right, is very simple. It's actually some of the most well-organized, best managed content on YouTube. The problem is I'm a negative meme and no one cares, right? That's the problem. If I weren't a negative meme that everyone just rags on, people would come to the channel and be like, wait a minute. Everything you hear is so nice and neat. I can find the show from every day in a playlist. I can find this. Look at this. The title's well done. Look at this, right? The problem is no one cares about the content because everyone just thinks I'm a joke. That's true. I just find it hilarious that I watch other content creators and their content is not well organized. It's not even easily digestible or watchable. It's like a work to get to what you want to watch. Like, we've watched playthroughs from other content creators and it's like, okay, this is part, literally it'll be like, I'll just throw out a name there. Detroit Become Human, part 10. And that's it. Doesn't say what's in the video. Doesn't say what happens in the gameplay for that day. Nothing. You press play, they're just sitting there in a chair talking to their audience for an hour. Who the fuck wants to see that? You named the video Detroit Become Human. Why the fuck is this in this on-demand video? It doesn't make any sense. You know, now you gotta fucking skip through. I don't care about what the fuck you were doing on the particular day 7 years ago. Get the fuck out of here. Get to the content. And you finally get to where the game starts. And now, wow, it only took me like 25 minutes to get to the fucking part I wanted to watch. Wow, that's great. And these are people more popular than me. But no one gives them shit. Why? Because they're not negative memes on the internet. I am. I work my ass off to try to improve and give you guys the better content. And I feel like my content's better. The way it's organized, the way the length, the titling, the thumbnail, the playlist, the quality of the content itself, the fact that I do Paper Machete, you're a moron. I'm not doing that right now. This is a fucking live stream, you idiot. I'm talking about the on-demand content. What a fucking moron. You're doing that right now, duh. No fucking moron. This is a live broadcast. Of course, there's going to be different content in the live broadcast. I break it up on purpose so you can find it later. That's what I'm talking about. God, you're dumb. It's like saying I'm watching live TV and there's too much of stuff jumbled together. Well, yeah, on live TV, you're going to have your show. You're going to have commercials in between. You're going to have different shows shifting around in a live broadcast. You're watching live TV. That's what you deal with. Same thing on a live stream. I'm talking about on demand. The fact that you can't even understand that, but you got to yell in my stream to act like you're smarter than me, it just shows what a fucking dunce you are. Anyway, yeah, basically, I do my best And I bend over backwards to make my content better than what these other people are doing. And then everyone just says my content's crap anyway. So at this point, I don't really give a shit. I'll listen to the feedback of those who are actual like positive viewers and want improvement. But for the most part, no, I'm not going to rush through a game in one weekend just to get it done. So then you can go back and finish the other games, but then you can go back and do side content later. I'm not doing that. We'll play it today. We'll go focus on Baldur's Gate and Like a Dragon. Let's finish them. And then we'll come back and we'll focus on Dragon's Dogma 2. You know, I'm not going to be one of these guys chasing glory of beating a game in a few days like I used to do. I've been there, done that. To be quite frank, it wasn't that great. It actually became more of a chore to do it that way because you never really know how long a game is, and you think you know, and then you try to schedule out, all right, I'm going to beat this game in 3 days, and then the next game starts then, and the next game starts then, and then it doesn't work that way, and then your whole thing gets screwed up. And also, quite honestly, it disappoints me when I miss a lot of content these days. You know, back then I didn't care. My attitude was just pump out maximum videos. Why? Because I didn't really care. To be honest, like it was more about quantity over quality. Today, I'd much rather have quality over quantity. I think the reason that a lot of people stick with me and support me is because of that. If I just went back to old Phil pumping out endless videos to rush through games, I don't think people would care that much. I think people would be like, oh, he's gone back to his old shit and we don't want to watch that anymore. Right? So, anyway, let's continue. I received a $24 tip from 60 Seconds Man. This is great. 60 Seconds Man did a $24 tip. He says, I'm trying to be more anonymous today, hence my name change. No one should notice. That's great. Anyway, so 60 Seconds Man says the following. Interesting, you're playing another Game of the Year candidate. This game probably has the highest entertainment value at this time. So what vocations did you choose? I guess it would be fighter and mage, or maybe focus on distance mobility and spells. Remember, food is perishable in the game, and there will be a lot of walking. I remember from the original game, there's an insane amount of walking. It's just really, you're just traversing this open world for a huge amount of the game until you get into like the dungeons, right? The instance to dungeons and stuff like that. A lot of people compare it to actually like a single player MMO. I know that sounds weird. It kind of follows the formula of an MMO, except there's way more action. It's not turn-based, so it's more action-based combat, but it's like an open MMO world. I liked that a lot about the first game, although the one thing that gets annoying is if you accidentally wander into an area that's way above your level, and you just get smacked around, and you're like, oh, shit, I'm definitely in the wrong area. And then you're like, well, damn, I thought I was going the right way the whole time. Now I got to go back and look for the area I was actually supposed to go to, right? But it should be fun. Thank you, 60 Second Man, for your support today. Continuing on here. The blimp, I shouted you out. Yes, I did. Dig Bix, once again, this name, did a super chat. He says, sorry if I upset you with suggesting we cool. No, I'm not upset. I just think your name is ridiculous. We obviously know what you're trying to say, and it's ridiculous. Superfan69 did a super chat. He says, did you hear that Broly Legs passed away? Oh, wait. I thought his name was Broly Legs. Is Brody Legs? I know about this person because we actually watched a very inspirational video about them on my React show a few months ago. For those who don't know, this was a fighting game player who basically his body was kind of underdeveloped. And so because of this, he's been handicapped his whole life. Very hard for him to get around, but he still plays competitive fighting games. And he actually is pretty good. I mean, this guy wasn't winning major tournaments or events, but he was damn good at what he did. And the fact that he had to go through so much adversity to play fighting games, and the fact that he was good at them, it's amazing. For those who don't know, it is Broly Legs. I thought it was. He spelled it wrong. I thought it was Broly Legs. He basically played. Did he play with his mouth or did he play with his arms? I can't remember, but basically, like, it was very hard for him to play because, like I said, his body didn't develop properly. And you know, to see him play games at the level he does is inspirational, you know. But sadly, he passed away. You know, and he wasn't even 40 yet. And it's sad to see someone go because everyone said he's a positive, vibrant person. He was a shining light for the fighting game community, and it's an outstanding example of what it can be in a positive light. And it's sad that he passed away so early. And yes, it's sad to lose someone like that. So yeah, rest in peace to Broly Legs. Personally, I never met them. He came into fighting games way after I was out of the competitive community. But so many testimonials. He was such a nice guy. Is there a chance I'll play Mario versus Donkey Kong when I'm done with Like a Dragon? No. Literally, no one's asked for it. It's just a remake of a Game Boy Advance game from many years ago. I really don't have any interest in it. Why don't I auto-ban people that try to catch me and gut me moments? I'm referring to false catchy moments. Gotcha. Huh? I'm so confused. What do you mean? Cypress TV, I don't know what you're saying. I'm so confused. Does anyone know what he was saying? I feel like his autocorrect destroyed his sentence, and his sentence didn't actually come out. When am I continuing Elden Ring? At the latest in May. At the very latest. But we may do it earlier. It depends on schedule-wise. What we're going to do is we're going to sit down on my birthday and see what games are coming out April, May, June. But it's definitely coming back so we can get in line and ready for the DLC in June. What else are you guys talking about? People sometimes have these weird topics. I'm trying to understand what they're saying. I jump in the middle of the conversation, and I don't know what they're talking about. Zero says, off the top of my head, what's a game I'd recommend for someone to check out? Any game at all? Lies of P. If you like Soulsborne games and you did not play it, you really missed out. Lies of P essentially is Bloodborne 2, and it's super good. It's like, I was impressed at how good of a job they did. You would think that was FromSoft that made it, and it wasn't. So there you go. I'm sorry to hear that. Apparently a terrorist attack has happened in Moscow. Obviously I'm up here. I didn't hear anything about that. I'm very sorry to hear that. What's my favorite supermassive game of all time? Probably either Until Dawn or Little Hope. They're both really, really good. Until Dawn is the perfect kind of homage to old school horror movies from the 80s. And Little Hope, probably one of the best kind of suspenseful, keep you guessing horror games I've ever seen. Those are my two favorites. All right. Guys, we got to end the show. As much as I'd like to hang out with you all day, we do got to get to Dragon's Dogma today. So thanks for a great show. And I hope that you have enjoyed the news. Like I said, I knew we were going to have a ton of news to cover today. If anything was missed, please let me know. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But I'm sure tomorrow we're going to have a lot to talk about, including day one impressions of Dragon's Dogma. I'll try to find some news about what people think of Rise of the Ronin, among many other things. All right, guys? Thank you all. Great show today. See you all tomorrow. Another episode of Level 1 Podcast.